Terry, would you speak so I can see if I can hear you?
Can you hear me?
I can indeed. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. It's definitely awful quiet out there tonight.
Yeah, too quiet.
Well, we got a few minutes. Actually 4, according to my phone. Terry, I have 7 people, including myself. Is that what you have?
That's what I have, John.
Okay, thank you.
I have some sort of echo. I think it's with YouTube.
I'm not hearing it. I don't know if anybody else is. Does anyone know how to back the camera away? Is there a way to back the camera away without physically backing the computer away?
Hi, I just wanted to tell Terry that sometimes if you mute the actual web page, YouTube web page, that might take care of her echo.
I closed the web page and that seemed to do it. It still says live on YouTube, but I'm not getting the
Yeah.
echo.
Yeah, that'll work too. Oh, good.
Okay, I have 6 o'clock, so I'd like to call this meeting of the South Thompson Board of Selectmen of March 8th to order. I'm showing, what is it, 9 participants now? Welcome, everybody. Adjustments to the agenda. Terry, I believe you had one.
I do have one. It's It's a limited purchase aquaculture license application from Dimitri. And I can't even begin to say his last name. Lives over on the island. He has the oyster farm. Zayats, or however you say it. He was gonna be here, but I don't see him on here yet. It just needs
Okay.
to be signed by an elected official.
Okay, and this came in after, this request came in after the agenda was posted, is that correct?
Yeah, it came in about 4 o'clock Thursday afternoon.
Okay, well, we'll add it to the agenda. I'm gonna call it aquaculture.
Higher launch, record prices already seen at main pump this week.
I'm hearing somebody's TV or something in the background.
Probably me. Let me shut it off.
And with this action is going to go up further.
Okay,
Who's watching it?
okay, I'd like to add consideration or discussion regarding the planning board draft bylaws and Jeff's response or email regarding that. Also, I believe we have a correspondence from Sandra regarding the Brown property that I'd like to add. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the venue for April 6th, but that's not an adjustment to the agenda. We can talk about that under item 10 under scheduling meetings. Walter or Jeff, you have anything to add?
Nope.
We're good to go? Okay. Public comment for items not on the agenda? Any public comment for items not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none. Review and approval of prior meeting minutes. Terry, I believe we just got those today. Is that correct? Or yeah?
Well, I sent out one version when I first did them, and then I usually send them out with a packet, but I forgot them in the packet, so I sent them out yesterday.
Okay, I don't believe I saw the earlier version. In any event, I haven't had a chance to read them, so I would I don't know if the other two folks are, but I'd at least like to get a chance to read them, so I would request that we table that to the next meeting.
Okay, move to table.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor, Jeff,
Jeff, I.
Walter,
Aye.
John, aye. And those are the only outstanding minutes, Terry?
That's correct.
Yeah, that's our last regular meeting.
Mhm.
Okay, is there any update on the temporary relocation to the library? For the library moving to the Guilford Butler School? Jeff or Terry or Penny, anybody have anything they want to add? Penny, your head is cut right off.
Oh, no. Okay, I would tentatively hope that we could complete the move this weekend and weather permitting, and have a open house the following Saturday. So the 19th is my plan. So of course, that's all subject to change, but that is our hope as of today.
Okay, and that obviously would be impacted by whatever decisions we make regarding the COVID protocols later on in the meeting, I would assume.
Yes.
Okay. And Terry, I saw in your notes that the insurance has been upgraded from unoccupied to occupied, so we're all set with our insurance, correct?
Yep. Yeah.
And anybody else have anything else to add or a question?
Yeah, at some point, we're going to have to do a special town meeting to approve the amendments to the lease. But I don't think that's time critical.
For the Little Red Schoolhouse. Right, but in the interim, it'll be heated at a low temperature and we'll carry on, although it'll simply be empty, I assume.
I also, it will take us a couple of weeks to clean up here at the library after we've moved out. And I do know that the Historical Society will not be meeting again until June. So, and we hope to turn it over in good condition. So we'll do a thorough cleaning here and do what we can to make it smooth.
Okay, and of course, that assumes town meeting approves the amendments to the lease to lease that property, that section of the property to the Historical Society.
Yes.
Okay.
John,
Yeah, go ahead.
seems to me that we don't have to have a special town meeting for that purpose. We can just roll it into the June town meeting, given what I just heard.
That, Jeff, comment on that, or Penny?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why we would have to have a special town meeting. The only reason we might want to is if we're already doing something like a public hearing or some other special town meeting for some purpose. And then we roll it into that, but I think we can wait till June.
Okay, I mean, yeah, we're pushing April now, so. Okay. Update regarding broadband expansion plans, or whatever, that large umbrella. Walter, you got anything, any information on this or any update? You don't have to.
No, haven't gotten a response from my latest mail to Deborah. Haven't heard of either the corporation or the coalition meeting. I will say that CCI has, they were hanging fiber in that section of Rockport that is serviced by the Rockland Exchange. So so they're eating into MDI's most lucrative territory. So, and I didn't drive down to see whether they've done the island yet. They did Waterman Beach Road last Saturday, and then they were headed down Spruce Head Road, but I didn't go see how much progress they made, but they're way ahead of schedule.
I think they were on the island Saturday or Sunday. Oh, maybe it's Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah, by the way, so that's a private enterprise. I mean, I suppose we like any new business, we could welcome them to town, but we don't endorse them or do anything that our technology committee or any of us do, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. They're in competition with Spectrum and others. So I do know that our technology committee is planning to meet or meeting or met. And Walter, you were hoping to attend and you weren't sure if you could or couldn't, and anything happened. I don't remember the dates, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's Thursday at 4. I'll be there.
This Thursday at 4?
Yeah.
Okay, and that'll be public meeting, Zoom, or?
Yeah, it's Zoomed. It's I think that Terry published an agenda today or yesterday and a Zoom link.
Okay, somebody wasn't muted. We're getting feedback. We're good now. Okay, so that's this Thursday at 4 o'clock, the Technology Committee, and you're gonna be in attendance, and of course that's open to the public from a Zoom perspective, and perhaps in person if that happens. But okay, discussion on transfer. Actually, it's 3 items under here. The increase in assessment for the 6 months, January through June. You want to tack and capital project and the fiscal year. I guess, Walter, that's you again.
I love talking trash. So we approved, the board approved the 6-month budget. And I think that South Thomaston's assessment only went up by $256 above what Terry budgeted for. Is that right, Terry? I didn't see what Heather ended up sending you, but that's what I recall.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And yeah, so Terry did a better job of forecasting than either of her peers in the other two towns. They didn't make out as well. So now we're working on a 12-month budget. Of course, all this assumes, and I sent the warrant article language to all three towns last week, which was reviewed and approved by our corporate counsel. All this assumes that the three towns will vote in favor of changing our fiscal year. Should they not, then we would have an immediate meeting and obviate vote to replace the budgets that we have now with the original FY22 budget that didn't thrill anybody. So the capital project, we are waiting for some ideas about cost reductions from the engineer and the construction company. Target is to get us down to what was funded between the PERC funds and the loan that we took out. We'll see how that goes. So, and again, the fiscal year, that the warrant article should appear on the South Thomaston town meeting, the Thomaston town meeting, have to hold a special town meeting. And all that has to happen before July 1st.
Okay.
So John's the dogs.
What's that? You broke up there. I think Walter's frozen.
Oh, I had a wise comment about you're attending to the dog.
Yeah, well, okay. So it sounds like, if I got that right, the assessment problem is hopefully the big increase for the 6 months that we hadn't budgeted for, and none of the other two towns is hopefully solved, at least in the short term. And the fiscal.
Right, it isn't solved. We just move stuff around into our theoretical next fiscal year. So what you didn't like in January has gone away until July, and then you're not going to like it then.
Right, but at least we can budget for it.
Right.
And I don't know, when we talk about the solid waste budget, we need to make sure we have keep our eye on that, because I'm not sure. I assume the number we put in there is not that updated number. But we can talk about.
Yeah, so can I make a comment about one of the we made a couple of changes to the interlocal agreement, and it was interesting that up until now, the interlocal agreement didn't call for the transfer board to submit a budget to the towns until December 31st, last day of their fiscal year. That have seemed to me to always be somewhat problematic, but this year it really hit because all three towns were well into their current year's budget when they got a surprise assessment. So the warrant article change says that the transfer station board forward going has to submit by March 15th. I think so. It's right in the middle of what's typically the town's budget planning process. So that should alleviate some of that timing mismatch in the future.
Okay. Anything else on that item?
Nope.
Okay, discussion on modifying our COVID protocols. I guess I'll throw it open to Jeff and Walter for some initial discussion, and then I got a couple of thoughts, and then maybe we can, if we have any comment from the public, we can entertain that. Jeff, you want to start?
Sure. Two things have happened in the last 30 days. One is all of the metrics that we look at have significantly decreased. But I think more importantly, the CDC as well as the Maine CDC have changed how they evaluate those metrics and weigh them to make recommendations specifically about gatherings and masks and those type of things. And right now, the entire state of Maine is in the yellow area. And it's only held up in the yellow area for us because the number of new reported cases is, or the positives, if you will, is higher than 200. So that's an arbitrary number. And again, I think that is a result of the testing, the process for testing now, as well as the last two variants that are out there. But every other metric is down, and the CDC is no longer suggesting that we wear masks in public unless you have some of those underlying issues, health issues that might make you prone to it, including schools. Schools started, I think today or maybe yesterday in Maine, and with few exceptions. I guess Portland is still carrying masks for kids, but everywhere else the kids are not wearing masks to school.
Walter, any thoughts?
No, I read the same data that Jeff does. Very rarely have an alternate interpretation.
Alternate facts?
Yeah, I don't believe in alternate facts.
Well, any thoughts on our current protocols? They become fairly complicated over time with a couple of different revisions. I guess one thought that I had is if we do suspend these completely or significantly, I guess, Jeff, you just sort of alluded to someone with pre-existing conditions. I guess I would, right now we're mandating that all committee meetings and board meetings be Zoom. I guess if we drop that, I would like, one concern I have is I would like that if there's an individual member who's not comfortable because of that condition, that member could participate by Zoom, and the board or committee would have to accommodate them. I assume that they would anyways, but I'd like to include that as one protocol that we would retain for a while, sort of in deference to those people that may fall into that category. And I guess the other question I have is, do we want to limit the size of any large gatherings? I don't know that we're going to have any large gatherings, like a special town meeting, although I can see the library open house perhaps being a large gathering. So that's more of a question. Any thoughts on that, or anybody have any similar thoughts that are not related to those two items? Jeff?
Your first item I agree with, but I think it goes right along with the way we are currently practicing, and that is if somebody is not available for whatever reason to attend in person, then we do it by Zoom. And I think that that's a legitimate reason for not attending in person, is if you don't feel health-wise that you should. As far as large meetings, I have mixed feelings about it. I think the quicker we get back to normal, the better everybody's going to be. And except for town meeting, I think even the library opening, I don't see that as all that problematic with the current guidance that's out there.
Well, would we like to keep, right now, we have in our protocols that department heads can impose stricter limitations or requirements. And that, I think, was particularly aimed at Amy's ability in the ambulance service. Would we like to perhaps keep that in there? And that way, if someone like Penny could say, you know, geez, I'm not going to allow more than 15 people per room or something like that. I don't know. I mean, I'm just pulling numbers out of the air, but sort of delegate that back down. Plus Amy's not here tonight, and it would, you know, give Amy the ability, if she wants to require masks under certain circumstances for ambulance people, then it would continue to give her sort of the, she probably could do it anyways, but kind of the backup, if you will, for that. So that would be another thought that I would have. And Penny, did I see you have your hand up? Hello? Is Penny frozen or muted?
She's muted
Penny?
and maybe frozen. Her eyes aren't blinking.
But there you go. Penny, did you have your hand up?
No, my internet is terribly iffy right now, so I'm only getting half of this. I did plan to make the open house an all day long affair to keep it spread out as much as possible. So I'm sorry, I did not hear what you asked.
Well, basically, I was suggesting that perhaps right now we have in our protocols that department heads can impose limitations based on, you know, in facilities or employees or volunteers that are under their supervision, for lack of a better word. And I think that was mainly directed, my thought that was mainly directed at Amy in the ambulance service. That would give her the ability to go beyond what we did. But
Right.
if we kept that, then that would give you the sort of the authority, for lack of a better word, to say, look, I can't have more than 20 people in the room or 15 people in the room. And it might just give you a little support if you decide to do something like that, or perhaps you won't. I mean, I don't know, but, or if there's more than 15 people in the room, I'd like everyone to wear masks. I don't know, whatever you might think was appropriate. So I was just suggesting we might want to keep that line in our protocols for the time being.
I'm comfortable with that, and I'd like to extend the same thing to Pat as far as her exercise class.
Well, that would be under you. I mean, as a department head, not her, but.
But I mean, if Pat doesn't want to teach unless everyone has a mask on, then so be it.
Yeah, and that would be you would have that ability to do that. So, so is there anything else that people would like to see us keep? Or Walter, are you comfortable with doing away? Because we've had a little difference of opinion on this amongst the three of us. So I want to make sure everybody's got a chance here to chime in with their thoughts.
I think, well, you know, maybe something's happened since I read this last week, but there are only 3 counties in Maine that are green. And if you're yellow, it's like indoor masking is recommended. So, well, I read that on the website last week.
No, it's not indoor masking is recommended. Only people who are have underlying conditions, but it is not recommended. There is, if you go through town right now, there's nowhere where people are wearing masks.
Well, I know that, except me.
Well, except
But they were 10 days ago.
Right. Well, hopefully they are in the town office still, but I imagine that's probably beginning to become a challenge for Terry and others because people are getting out of that habit.
And people getting crabby not being able to come in, just one at a time.
Yeah,
I left the other day because somebody bumped right in front of me.
I thought I heard somebody speak, but
You
Okay.
did, but I don't think they were meaning to. I think it's urgent. We gotta mute him.
Okay. All right, well, I guess my recommendation would be is that we suspend all our protocols for the time being, except the giving the department heads authority to delegate restrictions based on their needs. And what was the other one I mentioned? At the beginning?
That we
Zoom if
accommodate
you,
anybody who's.
Oh, yeah.
uncomfortable.
And I think Jeff's right, that did cover that, but I think it would be nice to just put that in an email that, that's still an expectation. And are people comfortable with that? Is somebody want to add something to that?
No, I like it, and I would make that motion.
okay, I'll second the motion so we can have a discussion.
Okay, discussion?
And although this is only slightly germane. What's our policy or preferred best practice going forward with regards to Zoom and YouTube? To me, regardless of pandemic, a broader reach of accessibility to meetings is a good thing. So, like I said, you can rule me out of order for not being quite germane because this is not about pandemic, but to me, it's people should lean in favor of always Zooming or YouTubing their meetings, including the select board and all the committees. So.
Well, why don't, I mean, I agree with you, and it's kind of an irony because when they first considered the remote meetings, I think the concern was that it was going to cut off public participation or dampen it. And I think the sense is that it's had the exact opposite effect. And I think we've seen that here in South Thomaston. I mean, I remember many a night when, cold winter night, when there'd be 3 selectmen and maybe 1 person from the public in the meeting. Sure, you and Walter do and Terry do as well. And now that's not the case at all. So I kind of agree with you, Walter, and perhaps we should take that up as a separate agenda item at the next meeting. Because I agree with you. I don't think it's it doesn't quite hit the nail on the head for this agenda, but.
Which will no doubt be an in-person meeting.
True, but if you or Jeff are not comfortable, or me is not comfortable in attending, we could amend, so. Further discussion on the motion? So with the understanding that we're gonna put sort of the remote practice, if you will, on the next agenda, which is not part of the motion, but with that understanding, all those in favor of the motion, Jeff?
Jeff, aye.
Walter?
Aye.
And John, aye. Do we want to make this effective immediately?
Yes,
Yes, but I'm not. But I think we're within the 7 days of some meetings, and to change those to in person now, like the budget meetings we've got scheduled, I think we ought to keep those as Zoom only. But probably next week, get with the options of moving away.
Okay. Well, how about we make it effective immediately with the exception that meetings of boards and commissions within 7 days from today are under the old policy. Does that work?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay. Walter, you good with
Yes.
that? Okay. Good. Well, maybe, hopefully we don't have to revisit this again in the future. Discussion of town report dedication. I'd like to take that up later, and town report cover. Terry had a number of photos sent in just from, I don't know from whom, based on a solicitation. that she sent out on our email list. Some of them I thought were quite good. Does anybody, does any one of you two want to be a committee of two with Terry and pick one out? I'm happy to delegate that.
Yeah, I don't mind, but I'd rather we have the discussion about commitment or who we're gonna dedicate it to, or because I think that could drive what pictures we put on the
Okay.
front of it.
All right. Well, as you know, we typically violate state law and pick the dedication in private.
I see that as a personnel issue, and can be legally covered.
And I think every small town in Maine has done that for 200 years. So, okay. All right. Well, I think that's a good idea. And Terry, I don't know if you had any more come in.
Yeah, a few more.
Okay. Well, maybe you could get them out to us at some point. So.
Yep.
We do have a personnel matter agenda on the item tonight. Perhaps we can talk briefly about the dedication. Okay. I see discussion regarding road posting ordinance. We have a public hearing scheduled for tomorrow, correct, at 8:30. And I think everybody got a copy of the changes. We did write in the exception for perishable seafood products that weren't, including bait, that weren't in the model ordinance. And also we wrote in an exception for tractor trailers on Island Road only. Not Westbrook Street. And I did talk to Travis and a couple others, and they agreed that for those few short months that they could certainly keep their tractor trailers off Westbrook Street because there are other alternatives that are just a minute or two different. And personally, I think maybe they should keep their tractor trailers off that road all the time because, but that's another matter. But basically what we're doing here is simply codifying, just so the public knows, the road posting policy that the town has had in effect for many years, of which we are told there is an ordinance around somewhere that was enacted many years ago, but nobody can seem to locate. So based on legal advice, they're suggesting that we reenact it, which is something the selectmen can do, and repeal and rescind any previously enacted ordinance in case it appears next week sometime. So it's not really changing anything from what the practice has been for many, many years. And if a road is frozen solid, that's still in there. We've been practicing that and so on and so forth. So any thoughts, questions, comments before we go to the public hearing at 8:30 tomorrow morning? Walter?
Nope.
Okay.
I did think it appeared on the 9th and 10th agendas, I thought, but I'll check that later.
Okay, I thought it was tomorrow.
It is tomorrow for sure.
Yeah, okay. If it's on the 10th agenda, I guess that was a cut and paste there. Okay. New business, approve Chief Calderwood's application to apply for a grant for SCBA bottles. Help me again with the acronym. I know you told me 1,000 times.
Self-contained breathing apparatus.
Right. So Chief, just give us a Reader's Digest version here of.
This is a grant that I've been putting on for going through for 15 years through MMA. I do it twice a year. This budget cycle makes it so I can do it 3 times. It's in my budget to spend the money to do it. Just needs somebody's John Hancock on the paperwork so I can submit it.
Okay.
It's for 2 SCBA cylinders. There's 2 cylinders. It's a part of the replacement plan for the cylinders, as they only have a 15-year shelf life. So I try to keep the rotation going.
Okay, and they're roughly how much a piece?
$900.
Okay. All right, is there a motion to approve this grant application?
Move to approve.
Second.
Further discussion?
Yeah, so Brian, is there something special about this particular grant? Because you've submitted grants that were anticipated in your planning process many times with just one select board member's signature. So is there anything different about this one that you brought it here, or just publicity?
It's the same format. I just need whoever wants to sign it to sign it.
Okay.
I can submit it.
All right.
Okay. Jeff,
Jeff, I.
Walter,
Aye.
okay. Why don't we jump around here a little bit? I see a couple of folks have joined us. Let's move to, I assume the Aphrodite oysters is Dimitri. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's me.
Why don't we take this out of order? Hopefully this will be quick. Can you just explain to us briefly what
Yeah.
you're requesting?
Yep. So briefly, I'm asking to, or DMR actually has asked me to ask an elected official to review and sign my limited purpose aquaculture applications. We need to add 2 more short lines next to where the Aphrodite, the outboard is. We already have 2 in there by the bridge, and we need 2 more to accommodate more oysters there. So they'll basically, Nick Stillwell was our marine patrol officer. He still is. He was the one signing all the previous ones that 4 that Krista, my wife, has, and 2 that I have. And since then, there's a new person came into a DMR office, and she says that according to the rules, actually she shouldn't be doing that because we are a town and we're not an unorganized territory, which it could be like a Vice Haven or something. So he said, no, you should go to the town office or go find an elected official to do that for you. I said, okay. So I have approved it with the what do you call it? The people where their properties go into the low water tide, riparian landowners. And I've approved it with the DMR and I've approved it with the Marine Patrol. So this is my last stop, is basically you. I spoke with Terry at the office, and she said, yeah, I'll put you on a schedule for a meeting, and you can bring it up, and guys will review it when they come to the town office. So I left my applications there since last week, and I just was hoping that somebody could come and, if you're curious, please take a look, and if you have any questions, ask me. But basically, in short words, off of the bridge, off of the landing, we have 200-foot lines that have some oyster bags on there in the summertime and fall. And we need 2 more lines that will be right behind the outboard. I guess not in the front, which we have now, but they're right behind the outboard, which is on the same, right at the low water tide. They'll be still in the water versus on the mud. I had to hush it over as well with, yes, David Taylor, the Shellfish Committee. He made sure that they're not on the mud because they're concerned about clams coming back and they want them to come back. So they can't, it cannot be affecting the clammers either. So I went there with him, and he did the coordinates, and he approved it as well. And I have his signatures on the applications as well. So, they'll just have, just as I said, for the town's sakes, they are on the same, waterway, or they're on the same, how to call this, path towards the landing. They are out of the way of the main navigation for the boats, for example. Those guys that are going out and bringing their catch into the town landing, or other people that are operating small vessels or bigger vessels in the river. They would not be they would not be in the way of them going to the landing, for example. They're on the same level, on the same line, I should say, with my other lines. So, I mean, I don't know if there's any other concerns the town would have regarding that, apart from like a navigational point of view. If there's
Okay.
any questions about that, but they're just, as I said, they're as big as the other two lines. They're in line with the other two. They're next to our skiff. There's more there. They're out of they're not in the mud. They wouldn't be affecting any clams or clam diggers if the clams ever was to come back to that area, which they haven't been there for a while. But we're hoping Shellfish Committee is working hard to get them to come back and seeding the site.
Seed that will be put in on those seed lines are.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Terry, you said there was no public hearing requirements in the paperwork here.
Correct.
Okay, I guess, is there a time, is this a time sensitive thing? I guess what I'm thinking about is I hate to do something like this without having it on the agenda in case somebody wants to come in and comment about it. Is there a time deadline you're facing?
Honey, is there a time deadline?
No, there's no deadline.
Not really a deadline, as long as
Get it, the line set up.
we would like to get them set up before the oyster season starts.
Which is when?
Within like a month's time, maybe, we'll be pulling up our oysters and putting the smaller ones on those lines.
Okay, so
I've been-
I don't know if you, I don't know if Jeff, you or Walter share my concern, but I kind of always hate to have these things, something like this come in as an adjustment and really there's no public notice for it. I'd feel more comfortable if we formally put it on the agenda at the next meeting, because this came in after the agenda was out and posted, correct, Terry?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's March 29th, Dimitri.
Yeah, John, I agree with you 100%. The aquaculture kinds of activities, if they were attached to the land, would come under the purview of the planning board. But if they're out away from the land, then they don't. And almost all of the oversight in our town is done by the state, unless we have a harbor master, and then a harbor master would have some oversight for it as well. But in this case, I agree with you. We would be who would sign off on it, and I think we ought to have it on the agenda so that if anybody has anything to say about it, they could see it and comment.
Yeah.
I don't get me wrong, I'm all for it. I think, and I would move to approve it. But my fear is that if we did that, then if somebody has any objections to it, they could challenge you and us if we didn't have it on the agenda.
Yeah, I'm not anticipating any objections. I just feel like it always seems to come back to bite you when you do something like this without it. And then you can say it was on the agenda. So and it sounds like that wouldn't be an impediment to you time-wise. If we took it up.
Within the next
29th.
month or so, that would be great, because we would start.
I think it's March 29th.
Beginning of April, that's what our plan to start pulling them up. So yeah, wife says perfectly fine.
Okay, and I just think it can cause, if there are going to be any ruffled feathers, it can maybe chance to smooth them out. Now, again, not that I anticipate that.
Yeah, as I said, we did our due diligence. We sent copies of the applications that you have on hand, the town office, to the landowners that are, the Mackeys and whoever is in a 1,000-foot radius of there. And I mean, everybody's fine. I spoke with them and do what you need to do, concerning the agenda and the procedure that you guys have at the town office.
Okay.
I'm all for it. I'm totally
Yeah,
fine.
because this is new to us. We've never been asked to sign these, so, and
Okay.
that kind of puzzles
Nick
me.
Hillwell, but
Well.
now it's trying to change it, so it's fine. It's fine by me.
Okay, why don't we, Terry, will you make a note to put this on the next agenda?
Yes, I will.
And I just feel better about it. So Sally, did you have your hand up at some point, or did I misread that? Sally Merchant? You're muted. You're muted.
I think that was when the cat walked across the
Oh,
computer.
okay.
He had something to
Okay.
say.
I got a dog and you got a cat. Okay. Let's take, I see Irv's here. Let's take up the planning board bylaws and Jeff's comments to them. Again, this is an adjustment to the agenda. I don't know that we need to take any action tonight, but I'd like to have a little discussion about this. Jeff, do you want to start since you, and I'm a little, and I only seem to have your copy with your red line, so I'm not sure what the original changes were that the planning board made, so I'm a little confused. So Jeff, could you maybe try to sort this out for us a little bit? And Irv is here, I believe.
Yeah, I'm looking for it now.
And I didn't mean to interrupt anybody. I just thought I would say thank you for your attention and, you know, I appreciate
Okay,
your time and doing that for
okay.
us.
Yeah, take care.
Thanks.
Yeah. You're welcome to stay. You don't have to.
Got a
Yeah,
little baby to take care of. Got to be a part of a babysitting crew here, so I
Okay.
I gotta run.
Take care.
But thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So Irv sent it out from the planning board, and the planning board had already done some work. They did not change anything in the bylaws. But they did do an addendum to the bylaws. So they added a section at the end that, if I can get to it. Yeah, they labeled it as an addendum. So it's the last page and a half, where they laid out basically when they would have a public hearing and when mailings to abutters were made. So what they did is they did exactly what we asked them to do. And I do, some of my comments are in conjunction with that. But going back to the basic bylaw, it missed, the planning board apparently missed that in the last change to the ordinance that establishes the planning board, it requires the bylaws to be approved by the select board. So the changes I made to the basic portion of it are either in difference to that or to soften some verbiage that has the planning board directing the select board to do something, which technically they can't do.
Okay, so those are the changes in 2B. And
Correct.
4B. Or, oh, actually, 4.1, excuse me, 4A1 and 4B. I see, okay. And then the changes regarding the notice, which starts, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just trying to understand this. Where it says at the top, addendum, February 7th, 2022.
Correct.
And so Jeff, you're suggesting that the first one be struck? The planning board maintains jurisdiction to review applications before it?
Yeah, because what that implies is that anything that comes before them, they have jurisdiction over. And the reality is the very first thing they do on anything that gets submitted to them is determine whether they have jurisdiction. And they can discuss it, but if they don't have jurisdiction, they can't issue a permit. For example, if it's a CEO permit, then they don't have jurisdiction. So by putting it in their bylaws, it could lead somebody to believe that they have jurisdiction over it just because they come to the planning board. And so it's moot. It really doesn't add anything to this whole discussion of when they send out notifications.
Okay. And then the second item, and we can get back to discussion. I'm just trying to get this clear, so make sure we're all on the same page here. The second is you're questioning why they are defining a butter differently than a butter is defined in the main body.
Correct.
Okay.
And And I don't mind them saying if they're going to make a determination that a mailing has to go to X number of people, or they could extend it by saying anything within 5, but don't call it abutters, because we define abutters in the shoreline zone ordinance and in the land use ordinance. And I think it's even defined differently in their bylaws. So I would not confuse abutters with anything that is not matching exactly what's in the other definitions of it.
Okay, so you have no problem with what they did so much in terms of notification or who they want to notify, but it's how they're identified. So you're suggesting that they perhaps, instead of calling it a butter, call it nearby property owners or some other word that's more appropriate, but okay. And then can you explain the parenthesis around greater than 10,000 square feet, what your thought is there?
Yeah, commercial businesses, commercial use of greater than 10,000 square feet requires planning board approval. If it's less than that, it doesn't require planning board approval. So to require the plan for them to put this requirement on, it's a CEO approval. So if they want to put commercial greater than 10,000 square feet, and the other thing is that industrial construction is a planning board item, whether it's 10,000 feet or more. So I think, I'm not sure of this, but I think they just missed that 10,000. I think it should have been under commercial, not under industrial construction.
Well, we can get to Irv in a minute and have him comment on what their intent was, because I guess you could read that the other way and say any industrial construction they wanted a butter notice, but anyways. Okay, so so it's a similar issue under one below.
Correct. And this talks about public hearings. So,
Right.
So structures are not just commercial structures or industrial structures, they're residential structures. So you wouldn't have a public hearing for a residential building, whether it's 10,000 square feet or 2,000 square feet. That's a CEO approval item. So it wouldn't go to the planning board. So it would not. And unfortunately, by putting it in your bylaws, you could be usurping the CEO's approval authority on a residential structure that's greater than 10,000 square feet.
Okay. So Irv, are you there? Irv? Says he's there.
I'm here.
Hi, Irv.
Hear me?
How are you?
Good.
Welcome. Thank you for attending. I'm glad you got my notice. I'm trying to keep you in the loop.
Thank you.
So you heard Jeff. Would you like to kind of walk through all of these or some of these, or rather maybe get together with Jeff outside of a meeting and talk this through, or?
Sure, whatever.
Well, it might be, in the interest of time, it might be more advantageous to, Jeff, if you and Kurt could communicate, you and Irvin could communicate directly outside the meeting. But Irv, if you want to, if you have a couple, I don't know, how do you feel about that, Jeff?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Do you want to comment on anything that he just talked about, Irv? That
Can you hear me okay? I don't know if you
Yeah.
can see me.
no, we can't see you, but we can hear you.
I'm trying to hit the button here, but, okay. Anyway,
I would like to ask.
Hold on, Irv speaking, please. Go ahead, Irv.
okay, first of all, the bylaws, because they've been in effect for about a year now. And then what happened on the other issues? Let me see. On the number one there, the planning board maintains jurisdiction to review all applications before it. That was a request of some of the board members of the meeting. And they just, one of them wanted to have that in there. it really doesn't hurt anything to have it there. And then the next question was, why was the 500-foot radius of the boundaries? I believe there is something on public hearings for 500 feet in the ordinances. I'll check that to make sure. But that was the definition. It does say in the ordinance of properties across the road and so forth already. So
Yeah.
we can look at that. The reason why that they want to have a 500-foot radius that, give everybody within 500 feet notice of a project.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, I
commercial-
don't think Jeff was opposed to that. He was just opposed of calling it the same thing as an abutter. But anyways, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I understand. Then the commercial greater than 10,000 square feet or industrial, that's all the planning board does, really, is commercial industrial projects. We have been getting some information on different, if somebody puts in a pier or something that's coming up now, we get notified of that. The reason why they put the structures in, that was just a large structure instead of a commercial use. I mean, I'm sure most of the structure that side would be a commercial. Jeffrey is correct. It could be a private dwelling built over 10,000 square feet. Unlikely though, I think, to have somebody need a house that big in South Thomaston. But the 10,000 square feet was for the actual building size. And then the rest, that would all trigger public hearings.
Yeah. Okay,
And so that's why it was put in there.
all right.
Let me see. The mailings and stuff, first class mail, I think the rest of it's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay.
So if we could take another look at it, make some adjustments, I'm not opposed to that. This is what the board came up with. And we had several meetings on it. We had public meetings. We had, all kinds of time to have input. And there's been very little interest in this about a notification, as I said before. I think we had one person one time come, but other than that, and then they didn't have any ideas. They didn't have any suggestions. So
Okay.
that's what we came up with. But like I say, there's very little interest on notifications at all.
Until it
we got it in
happens.
Until you don't get notified.
Right.
Well,
So-
You get surprised.
the people in town got to realize that the districts, there's allowed uses in these districts. People have land, rights to their land to do what they need to do with them. So that we can't really stop them if it's an allowed use, as long as they meet the special exemptions and stuff. So that's how we have to operate within the
Yeah.
ordinance.
Yeah, we all understand that. So
Okay,
go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just recognized her. So
okay, go ahead, Kathleen, fine, go ahead.
So, I mean, you kept mentioning they, I assume that they is the three of us at the planning board, you included. And I mean, if Jeff has comments and on all kinds of technicalities, is there any chance he could show up at one of our meetings and go through that with the three of us and, so that we understand what didn't work and can be corrected and understood for future times.
Yeah, I don't mind doing that at all.
I think that what Jeff's main concern is on the 10,000 square foot building, just instead of take the structure out and say commercial. The thing is, we were referring to buildings, larger buildings. So now if we say, I guess, could we say commercial structures, for example? Is that we can just,
I'd rather we discuss all this, as part of
In
the
a meeting.
planning board.
well, I'm
meeting.
just getting feedback from Jeff, but I can talk to him. Jeff can come to the meeting on the 17th.
yeah, my goal here is to not try to wordsmith this at this meeting tonight. I don't think that's proper for him. My goal is to kind of connect Jeff. And, I may send a couple of comments myself that Jeff may be in support or that you agree with, or I may not. But if either Jeff and the chair could get together or Jeff and the three members of the planning board, since we only had three, that's fine too. Actually, that might be easier if there's differences of opinion on the planning board, but.
That's exactly.
I mean, I think it was a real good effort and kind of not too overbearing on the townspeople and the people, basically you want to notify somebody before there's construction next door if it warrants it.
Yeah. And I
I
agree.
think we've done that.
I think in general, it's a great start and it's not very expensive. It doesn't put a lot of administrative time burden on Terry and her people or whoever she's got or the planning board. But I do think that it does provide some notice of when there's going to be what in South Thomaston would be a significant project. Maybe in a lot of towns, it wouldn't be a significant project, but here it is. So I'm gonna kind of.
Can I real quick,
Go ahead.
just in general, this is primarily for Catherine, but also for my comments on the amendment were to make sure that you didn't, by saying it had to have notice or planning board or a hearing, that you didn't take something you didn't have, that the planning board currently does not have jurisdiction over, and then give you jurisdiction, right? Is that?
Yeah, I didn't understand why that clause was there, that number one thing, so that's fine with me if it's gone.
But all of my comments in that area were the same thing, because if you say a structure greater than 10,000 square feet, now you are saying that something that is the CEO's responsibility, residential structures, is now a planning board issue, and you don't want to do that. You actually can't do that, because the ordinance says it's the CEO's, not yours.
But you mentioned something about definition.
Well, again, can we move?
Yes, I would prefer that.
Because we got
Can I
a lot
just
to
do
do.
one more thing?
Go ahead, briefly, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
These bylaws, okay, they have really no teeth to them. They're just bylaws of the planning board. They're not an ordinance. And we understand that. These are just guidelines to go by. Okay, they're not, there's nothing that's, that would hold up, in court in the bylaws. They're not voted on by the towns. That's why I want to make that clear. These are just kind of guidelines, how we operate. If we want to send out a notice or not send out a notice, that's all it is. It's not law,
Okay.
Yeah, just real quick, your bylaws bind you and therefore bind the town. So they give an opportunity for somebody to challenge or question. So you need to make sure your bylaws are consistent so that and don't have enough wiggle room that somebody can say, you didn't do this at this building, we're therefore challenging it, or you did do this at this building and we're challenging it.
Okay, well, all right,
I want you to come and we can assess that.
Yeah, and I think that'd be great, and I think there's a good conversation going on here, so. But I'm gonna move on, and thank you, Irv, for attending. Are you home, Irv?
I'm home, yes.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, so Jeff, you're gonna be our lead person on this, and I have a couple of very minor things that I'm gonna shoot your way as well, okay? And Walter, obviously, if you have anything, feel free to do the same. So, okay, discussion on Island Road project bonding requirements. We all saw Andrew's email. I'm gonna be blunt. I'm not in favor of dropping the bonding requirements, even if Kristen could find a way for us to do it. But I want to hear your thoughts, and Jeff, Walter.
I agree.
Walter, you there?
Well, as I thought, I said, so we're gonna violate the law?
Well, I think the suggestion was that
I don't
perhaps,
think so.
there might be a way to separate this.
She can find wiggle room. I'm sorry, John, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, I just think, exactly. I mean, you could, you could call them two different projects, I guess, for example.
Yeah, I thought when I did that, I thought I had to make it 3 and I couldn't do that. But
anyways, I don't know. It sounds like two of us are not in favor of it anyway, so I don't know if we need a lengthy.
Can Hager say it's not necessary, or are we both bound by the same statute?
No, we required them in the bid package, and I think the staff
Right.
requirements. I think Andrew's response to Hager was that, I mean, they're obviously looking to try to save us a few bucks. But I think Andrew's response was, geez, you know, they really can't do that unless the town's attorney could, I'll just put it bluntly, find a way to sort of, I'll use the example of split it into two projects. And then you would, you know, you wouldn't be potentially wouldn't be over the dollar amount that's required, so. But. So I don't think we need to take any action unless we just need to tell Terry to tell Andrew that we're not interested, is that? But thank you for trying to save us some money. Are we good?
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
Okay. Perfect. Department head monthly reports. Anything anybody wants to comment on, bring up? Jeff, did you get a chance to meet with the code officer?
Yes, I did. He seems to be getting more feet underneath his motions now. I think he's delving into the right things, but the main thing I told him was, don't hesitate to call me. I'm easy to get a hold of, and I'm not averse to telling people how they should do their job. So.
And Terry, I see you shaking your head.
Yes, he seems much more comfortable.
Okay,
And
is he,
he's
do you have
more
the
willing-
technique? Is he working out, responding to the emails? Is that that sort of administrative piece getting squared away?
He's getting better at it. And I think he had problem with his email, and Phil helped him call Gus, and they got that straightened out. And I think he's getting more comfortable, and he's more willing to come out and say, hey guys, what do you think? Or just ask a simple question. So
Yeah, and keep reminding him, you know, pick up the phone and call Terry. Terry was more than willing to.
Yeah.
Terry Brackett was more than
Yep.
willing to help him, so. All right. Anything else on department head reports? We seem to be having less of them.
I confess, I haven't had time to do any.
Well, but we haven't, the assessors report, we haven't had one for a couple of months, have we? And
I think we had one last month, but Kevin.
We had one last month. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
okay,
Kevin gets kind of it. By the time he gets the email from me to remind him that he needs one, he's either not in the office or I just missed him, and he does them the next time he comes in.
right, but I'm not sure it's your job to remind them. I know.
Probably not.
We don't have one from the ambulance either, right?
I have, she sent one out.
Not on the
I
agenda.
think I sent the ambulance one, yes, because I'd already written the background notes when the ambulance one came in, and I might even have sent it the next
Okay,
day.
so we did get it. Okay.
We did get it.
Yeah.
Just not.
Yeah.
No.
And the
time.
interim uncompensated road commissioners following it.
That's true. Good point. I didn't think of that.
Okay,
So there's been no change in the pattern of monthly reports from the road commissioner.
That's true.
sorry about that. I am uncompensated. All right, we have the interstate septic waste disposal facility agreement to execute. This is something that happens annually. It basically provides we're required by law to provide a vendor, if you will, for pumpers to have a place to empty their pumps of septic waste. So I don't think the price has changed in 150 years. Is there a motion to approve with interstate?
Move to approve.
Second.
The disposal facility agreement. So because Andy's signature's on this, I assume they haven't sold the business yet, but they are going to. Both he and his brother are retiring as soon as they
Oh.
sell the business. Pardon?
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's what I say too.
So we'll probably be looking at an increase next
I
year.
was just going to say, this will be the last year of that fee, I would think.
Okay, further discussion? All those in favor? Jeff?
Jeff, I.
Walter?
Aye.
John, I. Okay, execute transportation disposal contract with DMJ. This has gone up a fair amount. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but surprise, surprise. I'm not sure we have much of an alternative. When does the current contract expire, Terry? Do you know?
April 1st.
Oh, right around the corner. I'd like to table this to the next meeting and maybe make a couple of phone calls. Maybe Scott Johnson and a few other folks who are in the know here. And Walter, I don't know if there's anybody on your side. I know it's a different type of waste, but that might have some thoughts or some alternatives. They've been very good to us, and so I'm reluctant to upset the apple cart because they've been great out there. I mean, they're timely and cooperative and really work with it.
They cost more 2 years ago and last year, I think, than we budgeted for, and now we have a new contract. The one discussion that's been held at the transfer station board is how could we meaning the transfer station and the 3 towns, get rid of all the stump dumps.
Yeah, but that's not gonna happen 21st.
Oh, well, no, I know.
But anyway, but no, I've often thought of that too. And why aren't we trying to pull something there? But
Yeah, it's the same stuff except for the stumps.
yeah.
Oh, and we don't do stumps anyway.
Well, how long is the contract for? A year?
2.
2?
It's 2 years with a 2-year renewal option.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not hot over on this at all because they have been super. Is there an escape clause in the contract, Terry? Can we say, get out with 30 days or 60 days notice or something like that?
I don't see anything.
Yeah, that first paragraph kind of gives us an out. The 2-year renewal option is dependent upon the completion of 2 years of satisfactory service and successful negotiation of rates. So we renegotiate the rates. So we have an option at the 2-year point to say either they haven't been satisfactory or we don't agree with the rates that they've come up with.
Yeah, but that locks us in for 2 years. I mean, we can always get rid of them for cause if they don't perform. I wonder how they would react if we decided, if we sort of sent a message that we're looking potentially at another alternative and we would only like to do a year at a time. And then that would give us some time to look into some options and maybe those discussions that Walter's referring to might, flower a little bit, for lack of a better word. We could certainly try that. And if they're not agreeable, then we could go with the 2 years. Is that worth a try? I'm not hearing a lot of interest.
Well, the only thing about that is the fuel up charges might change, and there's, yeah. So that's one where it seems to me we want to lock in is this time around.
I'm fine with it. I can go with the 2 years. I mean, it's not like an obscene increase, but it's significant. Is there a motion?
Did you want to table it to the next meeting so we can, do we have time to check around in 2 weeks?
Well, I didn't sense there was a lot of interest in that, but again, I don't have a strong opinion on this. I mean, they have been great to us and bailed us out of many. I mean, would you agree, Terry?
Yeah, they're good.
I
Very
mean,
good to work with.
you call them because we're all of a sudden loaded and they got somebody here that afternoon. I mean, they're just, so we don't have to shut the place down on a busy Saturday in the spring and
Yeah, and on the other side, the increase, the significant increase, you can tell that it's fuel generated. I mean, it's
well,
$2 per gallon to $4 per gallon.
and the other part is the tipping fee and they don't control that.
Okay, so I'll make a
Yeah.
motion. I'll make a motion to execute the DMJ transportation and disposal contract. And when are you coming back, John? Can have the chair sign it, or?
No, I think someone else should sign it.
Okay.
I'll be back around the 3rd.
Okay, we can authorize Terry to sign it.
24th.
Anybody have an
Sure.
objection to that?
That's fine with me.
Oh, second.
Okay,
By the way, none of the haulers that show up at the transfer station has ever raised the subject of taking or bidding on or asking for any of the stump dump businesses at the 3 towns that I'm aware of. So
yeah,
that would be a likely set of alternatives to pursue. So
yeah. Okay, all right. Jeff,
I.
Walter,
aye.
John, I. Okay,
So you want me to sign this and send it?
yep, that was the motion.
Okay.
I'm gonna jump around a little bit here. I'm gonna go down to. I'm gonna skip the personnel matter and go to correspondence. We have correspondence from the Coastal Children's Museum, and I thought we had another request for funds, Terry.
I think that was last time.
Okay, I thought there was another one. So typically, we just send them a note saying that we don't do that. I assume that's what we want to do here as well. We have a standard letter.
Yeah, normally I would say do that. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, they went directly to this as a COVID, that their request is directly related to COVID. So rather than just giving them the standard, I think we ought to consider it under our ARPA.
I'm willing to do that. I didn't catch that. So how is it COVID related?
They're like their 4th paragraph. Prior to pandemic, we had incredible strides in partnering with, and so the resources have dried up and we had issues with them, and it was all COVID related. So they mentioned COVID in here several times. And to be frank, I don't remember ever receiving a request from them in the past.
No.
And so I read this as COVID has impacted us and we're asking for some help.
Yeah, and we certainly have made a donation to a nonprofit with our ARPA fund. So, okay, I kind of missed that subtlety, I'll be honest with you. Should we put this on the next agenda?
I would advocate for that.
And then I can take a closer look at it and Walter can and.
Yep.
And then if we got any questions, we can ask Terry to call him okay, let's do that then. Is there a motion to table to the next meeting?
So move.
Second,
Further discussion? Jeff,
Jeff, I.
Walter,
Aye.
John, aye. We also got an email from Sandra regarding the potential Brown property donation that I guess in a nutshell, just basically said that Mr. Brown is still interested in perhaps pursuing that donation, but not at this time. I'm going to recognize Sandra to briefly summarize.
I think that's all there is to it. We contacted him, and when we didn't hear back promptly, we followed up, letting him know that what the select board had decided, and that the ball's in his court, that he needs to, if he's interested or when he's interested, he needs to provide something in writing saying that he would be prepared to make a gift subject to whatever conditions he wants to apply. And then the select board can consider at that point. And we made clear that ultimately it would have to be referred to a annual town meeting, and that there's a narrowing window if he was thinking that could happen with this year's meeting in June. And he promptly responded to our second message, laying that out, saying, I'm still interested, but not right now. So I think we're letting it go to another cycle. And my understanding is that when he's ready, he's going to have to do a fair amount of legal work to remove it from the trust. Whatever steps he's going to need to take properties in a family trust, which for which he is both the trustee and the beneficiary, the sole beneficiary. So it's not a matter of he can't do it, but it's still going to take some legal steps. And, apparently it's, there's some other things on his plate right now ahead of that.
Okay. I would make one minor comment. We could call a special town meeting. I'm not saying the board would call a special town meeting, but that is certainly a legal possibility. There's nothing saying that it has to go to an annual town meeting. Now, the board may want it to go to an annual town meeting, depending on what the conditions are, but that's just a minor correction. So, and the board may say, no, we'd like this, it's significant. We'd like it to go to an annual town meeting. So
I think that's all something we can address later whenever he tells us he's ready.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I think he's really ruling out having it ready by June. So we're into the next annual cycle anyway.
Yeah. I just wanted to just make that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, that whenever he is ready, we don't have to wait till the following June. I mean, if July of this year, he starts making moves to do something about this, right, we could do something about not having to wait a year.
Yeah, if the board was so inclined, right.
Right, it's an option.
Right. All righty.
Can I interject here?
Sure. I'm sorry.
So, Sandra, are you on the Conservation Committee?
Yes.
Okay. So 4 years ago, the town voted and the select board at the time executed a $36,000 purchase of land on the town landing. And there's at least one plan of what to do with that. It's on the verge of becoming shelfware. And some of that has to do with the number one driver of interest in doing something got tied up with some family personal stuff. And And some of us were more conversant with some of the technical things that could be done rather than the aesthetic and conservation kind of related things. I would encourage your committee to go get that plan and start thinking about doing, what contributions the Conservation Committee can make to moving that thing forward before we forget that we spent $36,000 and we actually then spent some money on a plan.
That's something
to me, that's higher impact than 2 parcels of land across the river from the landing.
Well, this is news to me, and if I can get back to you, or who's the right person to get back to find out where things stand.
Well, where they stand is that there's an engineering plan from Gartley and Dorsey that is sitting on a shelf somewhere in the town office.
So should I check with Terry?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay.
But I think we should be clear here that this is just a proposal from Gartley and Dorsey. It's nothing that has been approved by the town meeting or even the Board of Selectmen. It was sort of a first draft that hasn't gone to any public review or comment or anything. So I just don't want you to think that it's more than it is. So,
no, but
yeah,
but we already own some land that is that
yeah, we bought that little part. You know where the landing is? There was a little parcel right next to the bridge that was, for lack of a better word, landlocked by the landing and the guardrail on 73, where people fish. Most people thought it was already town land. And we purchased that, oh God, if you're right, Walter, probably 6 years ago. And it's, not that anything has to be done. I mean, we just thought that it made a lot of sense the town thought it made a lot of sense to purchase that little piece because it's virtually landlocked. But actually, I think it was landlocked. But anyway.
So are there other town residents who were involved in this who would be informative to contact, just for us to get up to speed on it?
Jan,
Well,
Scottio.
The Lions have an interest, correct?
All right. I think 2 people talked at once and I couldn't understand either.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think the Lions have some interest because they have a shack that's partially on both parcels, I believe, but Jeff can comment on that.
Yeah, the Lions weren't at all, well, they were cursory involved in the design. What this is a design of reorganizing the landing area, pretty much the park, through the parking lot, past the shack. All the land to the right of the shack is what we had purchased. We already owned everything to the left of it, and somewhere on the shack is the dividing line. And so now the town owns it all. And there is a design already done for how to make it better that the Lions actually endorsed.
And Walter, do you have other?
No, I think so. Like I said, Jan was kind of the designated interested select board member during that period of time. I bring this up just because all of us are smarter than any of us, and this is not something that's gotten a lot of publicity and interest. And again, the plan is sitting on the shelf, and we did spend $36,000. For the asset, but the asset needs to be exploited.
So far, I've heard the Lions Club and Jan and Terry and
No, Terry mentioned a name and we overrode her. We talked over her.
I said Jan.
Oh, okay.
Right, but if it's in somewhere in the town office, I was going to see if Terry could help me find it. Was that an eye roll?
Yeah, that's definitely step one. Go talk to Terry and it was up on the wall Not in the too distant past. It was hanging there on the wall for a long time.
But
What we can find.
there's a lot of interested potential constituents, for lack of a better word. I mean, there's the people that use the landing, there's the gig store, there's the Sea Memorial, there's the Yellow Submarine, there's the park. So this is quite a fish stew here in terms of potential interested parties in the larger piece. So.
It'll be interesting to try and track it down.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So are we, anything on the warrants? We're good to go. We have public hearing, as I mentioned, tomorrow morning. And then we're reviewing, the select board is reviewing budgets, that's by Zoom. And then we also have one 8:30 on Thursday morning, more budgets. The next select board meeting is the 29th, the regular one. We have the budget committee meetings on March 31st, April 4th, 5th, and 7th. And a joint meeting between the Board of Selectmen and the Library and Community Center Facility Committee and the Town Attorney on the 6th. I think a question has come up. I was asked by Sandy Wiseman if the meeting on the 6th was going to be in person, and I told her I couldn't answer her until we discussed COVID protocols tonight. We've done that piece. And the other piece was, where was it going to be? I guess I just assumed the town office meeting room, but we hadn't discussed that. And I don't know if this is going to bring a crowd. I mean, we're going to have a fair crowd just with the select board, Terry and that committee and Kristen. And, is that room going to be large enough to accommodate this crowd? I mean, it's not a public hearing or a public meeting. May indeed be some interest. I don't know. Thoughts, Jeff, Walter?
Yeah, I think that the town office, the conference room should be able to accommodate the two committees.
But I would zoom it as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because among other things, I don't know whether Ann will be in town and she's on the committee.
Well, it's also a select board meeting too.
Oh, that's right. Of course.
Okay. And if it isn't, we'll punt. All right. Let's go back to, have I missed anything? Other than the personnel matter? Everybody's good? Okay, Terry, you had everything you needed?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and you're gonna put the matter of that tax acquired parcel on the next agenda.
Yes.
Yeah, and maybe you can get out to us the copy of the tax map and blah, 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 so. All right.
Didn't I?
No, I meant like a picture of it.
Oh, I thought I sent you the map.
Oh, did you?
I don't know. Did I, Jeff?
You probably did.
Well, maybe not.
Yeah.
I
I'm crazy.
only saw the description.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember a map.
Okay.
All right.
I scanned it.
Well, you're halfway there then.
Yep.
Do we want to set regular select board meetings for April?
Probably.
Are there any days left?
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes. Terry pours the cold water of reality on us every time.
So normally we would meet. Having trouble getting to April here.
We would normally meet on the 5th, which we're meeting, or no, the 12th.
How about the 12th and the 26th?
I'll be away the week of the 26th, but carry on.
Well, I think it's important we have all three of us here. When are you, when? What are you,
The 20th, the 21st, the 12th, I'm here. And then the 20th and 21st, the only other times I'm here in April. And unfortunately,
when are you back?
I'm sorry, I'm back on the 30th. And unfortunately, that 26th through 29th period of time, I will not be able to be on Zoom.
Oh, okay. You want to just slide it to the 3rd of May?
Sure.
Because there's a bunch of,
Fine with me.
there's 5 Tuesdays in May anyways, isn't there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. So
I'd prefer not to do the 3rd. I'm already going to
Okay.
be doing the 5th
All right,
of April.
all right. Well, why don't we just say the 12th for now, and if we have to schedule some quick meeting somewhere or something, we'll make that work.
Thank you.
And it's not like we're not going to have ample opportunities. We're going to be meeting the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th.
Well, that makes me wonder, well, no, you can't, you're not here on the 9th. You're not here on the 19th, right, Walter?
Pardon?
And you're not here on the 19th.
No, I'll be coming back from,
So I'm just wondering if we should maybe skip the 12th, since we're gonna be meeting crazily that week before, and move it out to the 26th. Was that a problem for anybody?
that's a problem for me. That's when I'm away. I'm away on the 18th, 19th, and then the week of the 25th.
Ah, okay. All right, so what's the 12th? Getting tougher and tougher. Okay, is there a motion to go into executive session?
I move we enter executive session pursuant to MSRA 4056A to discuss personnel matters.
Is there a
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor, Jeff?
Jeff, I.
Aye.
Don, aye. Okay, good night, everybody. I don't anticipate reconvening to take any action after we exit executive session, although that is always possible. If we do, we'll reconvene and record it. If we just adjourn, we probably will just simply adjourn, so.